Here at Majestic Aquariums, when talking about various corals for your aquarium, we verbally rate the corals as 1, 2, 3s. Now, a 1 coral, in general, is a coral that if you're offering average reef lighting, average reef water flow, average reef supplements, and an average reef environment that we consider most of our customers are providing for their fish, that coral will do very well. A number 2 coral is a coral that if you're providing average conditions, and one person will do very well with that coral and one person won't do well with that coral. A number 3 coral is a coral that in general people will not do well with, regardless of how good their system is. So what I mean is that your lights are fine, your water flow is fine, your supplementing is fine, your water quality is fine, your feeding regime's fine, and some are just harder to keep than others. So therefore we try to tell you before you buy it whether it's a 1 or a 2 or a 3, so that way you know what sort of challenge you're in for. So like for example, a leather coral is a number 1. Everyone I sell that to, it's likely to do well. Whereas something like a gonopora is a number 2. If you have the right feeding and you're feeding Spectrum Micro or Reef Roids or the right food for that particular coral, it may do very well. And a number 3 is a coral that under most circumstances I expect it not to do well, so therefore it's a challenge to keep. Acroporas, most of your SPS corals, are in the harder to keep category because sometimes they can seem to just die, like this Hydenopora is doing there. So once again, it's all about the consumer having choice. If you're going to buy a Scenaria and it dies, that's usually a major problem. It means there's something particularly wrong with your aquarium that you need to get onto. Whereas if you're keeping a harder to keep species and it dies, then you don't need to take that as personally, and maybe it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your system. It might just mean that you made a poor selection in regards to the amount of experience you've got. So once again, if you're a beginner, just go for number 1 corals. If you're got a fair bit of experience, then by all means try number 2 corals. But if you are trying a number 2 coral, you want to do a little bit of research and find out why it is a number 2 coral. Does it need a particular light source? Does it need to be fed a particular way? Usually there is a reason why it's a number 2, and if you address that reason, then there's no reason why you can't successfully keep that coral. If you are buying a number 3 coral, you'd want to be a pretty experienced aquarist, and you would want to have done a fair bit of research to be fairly confident that you think that you're going to be able to keep this particular piece. Anyway, put a little comment down the bottom and tell us which coral you've had experience with and whether you believe that particular coral is a 1 or a 2 or a 3. Do you think Goniopora is a 1, 2, 3? Do you think an Acropora is a 1, 2, 3? Give us your comments, put it down the bottom, because it can be quite helpful for other people. Because as far as anything you keep in an aquarium, knowledge saves lives. The more knowledge you have, the more likely you're going to be able to grow this animal.